obviously you've been lucky enough to go to like loads of the races. Obviously you don't get to go to every single one of them, I think, but
no, I go to, I'd say a majority. I mean, last year I did about 14, 15 of them. This year, no, sorry, 13. This year I'm doing 15 of them. But yeah, I mean, I can't complain. It's been a great list. There's a few I haven't done, but yeah, it's been good.
So what I wanted to throw to you is your top 3 best and worst like tracks to go to from a journalist point of view, from just seeing the racing, from even from just being at the facilities itself. Because, and this kind of comes off the back of something that was Engine Mode 11, Dan, obviously who we know, part of the Engine Breaking podcast with Blake. He basically, those guys, because they used to obviously go to some of the tracks, they were absolutely roasting Sao Paulo because their toilet facilities. They based how good the tracks are off the facilities.
A lot of people do,
and they were absolutely roasting Sao Paulo because the toilet facilities were just terrible. So
Spain,
and you can factor that into your equation. So what would you say? Let's start off with your top 3 best, like the best tracks just to go to.
And this is just the ones I look forward to going to the most, or the ones as a journalist.
Honestly, whatever your reasoning, it can be whatever you want. I'll keep it open.
So I know 2 of them straight off the bat. One of them is Austria. Incredible part of the world. It's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, but as a journalist you get this incredible media center where you probably see it in the pictures. There's a diagonal glass building above the paddock. Our media center's in there, and from there you can see about 75% of the track. You can see the start, they go up the hill, then it dips down a bit, and then they go up to whatever it is, turn 2 or turn 3 now, no, 3 or 4. They've changed which turn it was, didn't they? But I remember in 2016, it was one of the first, I think it was 4th race I'd covered on the ground. You remember Lewis and Rosberg had that moment
right
there.
At the end of the final lap.
And I remember watching that on the screen and then being like, what am I doing? Look here. And then seeing them and seeing Lewis get close and then seeing them touch. And because the screens we watch are on a 1 to 2 second delay, seeing them collide, then looking up and seeing it. And again, I got the same thing in 2018 when Leclerc and Verstappen had their collision there. So that's a great place, and like you've always got, it's just kind of in a really bizarre place in terms of you would never expect there to be a race there. So that's one. I love Austin. I'm a big fan of America.
We've got to give a shout out to the American race,
I mean Austin. I think the circuit's great. I really like the facility. It's just frustrating because we're, as a complete contrast to Austria, you're just in a massive windowless room. You know, a lot of people think we're sat there watching the race live, but often you're just watching it on TV screens. But as a facility, it's great. Austin as a city is amazing. It's so fun to go to. So say those 2, and then
what's your 3rd of the best?
It's a really good question, because I mean I've got a soft spot for a lot of circuits, but then some of them have pretty shoddy facilities. I mean, you know, Monza. I love Monza. You know, I went there with my dad in 2006, but you know, it's just a complete nightmare to get into the media center. The media center's shoddy. When you're there, you're like, how can you hate Monza? But I wouldn't put it in my top 3 if we're factoring the stuff that Blake and Dan said as well.
I mean, you can. This is open to your interpretation.
The toilets are pretty bad at Monza.
How much do the toilets balance out?
No, I'm starting to think about them now, and I'm like, yeah, that's not great. It's not great. There must be a clear 3rd. I think honestly, I'll say I love going to Silverstone. I mean, Silverstone, it's got its detractors in the UK, but there's something really special about the amount of fans there. Actually, you know what? Let me give 2 as a tie: Silverstone and Zandvoort, so I don't piss any Max fans off or Lewis fans off. I'm going to give them a dead heat if that's all right, because one of the great things about them is they're kind of old circuits and the facilities aren't great. They're okay, but what is saved by them is that the circuits are incredible. It's not, you know, Silverstone, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but you've got all of these crazy fans around you. Zandvoort's kind of the same. You're near Amsterdam. Man, sorry, I'm sitting on the fence massively.
No, I like that. It's okay.
If I had to pick one of those to go to, I'd pick Zandvoort, actually. Because you're near Amsterdam as well.
Nice.
You can get a train in. You walk down to the circuit. You're basically in this little cabin. Like when people walk past you in the media center in Zandvoort, the place kind of bounces because it's a very flimsy structure. But I mean, it was just mad to go to. So I'd say those 3, but if you ask me again tomorrow, I'm probably gonna leave here and be like, why didn't I say this? My least favorite one was Sochi. I hated Sochi. I'm so glad.
Okay, so now let's move. Actually, let's go to your top 3 worst then. Yeah, let's go to your top. So Sochi straight off the bat.
Sochi, hated it. Absolutely hated it.
So what was kind of bad about it? Because I think it was like an Olympic complex that they kind of mangled into a track.
So I always say to people, have you seen the Truman Show, the Jim Carrey film?
No, I haven't.
Right. So the premise of the Truman Show is that he is the only person on this island who doesn't know it's a TV show made for him. He's Truman, and everyone else are actors. And he starts to work it out.
I actually need to watch it.
It's really good. I mean, it's Jim Carrey at his best as well. But there's a scene in it where he starts suspecting that people are acting. So he goes into a hospital, and obviously all the people there are actors. So they're not actually like performing an operation. They're just kind of stood there. In Sochi itself, it's such a weird town. You feel like that when you go into places. You go into like a bar or a restaurant or even your hotel, and you ask them, "Can I check in? Can I order a beer? Can I order pizza?" And they just look at you like, "What?" And then they have a like when you're trying to be like, I need my food. Can I have my food? I ordered 2 hours ago. They suddenly can't speak any English. When they're asking you to pay, their English is superb. So it's just a very weird place. And I always really enjoyed getting on the plane and getting out of Sochi because I just didn't like it. So when they cancelled it, I mean, they cancelled it for much more important reasons. But I'm very glad we're not going back there. So
what are the other two? That Sochi's a clear number one.
Yeah,
and also the track was bad as well. It wasn't.
I just didn't like the track, and I mean, it just had an odd kind of vibe. I feel like Russia could have had there's surely a better place in Russia you could have raced. So that would be number one, worst one. It's difficult, honestly, thinking about it. I mean, Spain, we've been to so many times as journalists because you go to pre-season testing there, and the toilets there are bad. The food situation's never great.
Is it quite? I've heard that it's not even that close to like the city.
No, you're quite a way out, and I mean, it's still you still stay in Barcelona, so that part of it's great. But Spain, I think it was because I more associate Spain in my head with cold February afternoons than I do warm May afternoons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think of pre-season testing Spain. So I
It was
always
even snowing one year. I think in
I remember
2016 or something.
turning up to that one, and we were just like, "What is this? This is not right." And yeah, it's just the facility's just just not up to scratch. But I mean, it's it's fairly old. And then third
To
one I hate,
round off.
can I say Paul Ricard? I know it's not on the calendar. I mean, I have picked Sochi as well.
Definitely. Now, Paul Ricard is another one that I know fans like. Apparently, it's similar to Barcelona, but maybe even worse. Apparently, it's like
The situation's terrible.
apparently it's really difficult to get into it as well. Like apparently there's like just one road.
I can't believe I didn't think of Paul Ricard. Yeah, Paul Ricard is one of the worst stadiums, circuits for that. You've got basically got one road in, one road out, so the traffic is insane. When we got there, it was. I mean, I've never been in such a warm environment before. They had one fan like this lamp, but in the corner of the media center, no aircon, and it was it was the kind of level where you're like this. I'm physically gonna like faint in here. And there's like 100 journalists all on like in this tiny room. It was awful.
Surrounding the fan, everyone trying to get a bit of a breeze.
And the worst thing is you go from there and then you get in your car and you know I'm going to be in this car for about an hour and a half, just waiting to get through traffic, and it's just handled poorly. And on top of all that, the circuit is just a circuit.
I think it's a good testing track, but other than that,
yeah, it'd be great for testing. It would really be good for testing.
I know they do like Formula 1 experiences there in like an old Lotus. Sign me up for that. I think it's like 20 grand.
I'd love to do that. And I think, and look, don't want to knock Paul Ricard, because one of the reasons tracks are designed like that now, F1 tracks get a lot of stick for, there's a lot of runoff areas. One of the reasons is it's very difficult to have track days if you've got a bunch of walls.
Yeah.
It's very, very dangerous. You can't have beginners doing that. So if you're a circuit, you're like, well, we want to make money the 53 weeks of the year we're not racing in Formula 1. We have to be good for track days. So I totally get why, but they've made the list as well. So yeah, Sochi, Paul Ricard, Spain.